90% of the time, I have no idea what I'm talking about.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
No, it's not. It's
Gets
gross.
the people going.
You are now listening to Diagnonsense
Then we would just be idiots saying nonsense.
with Kurt Honak
Damn it.
and Isaac Smolden.
I am also here.
Powerful ball of
I see.
Ball of ignorance.
Yeah.
That sounds like that definitely sounds like your new album that's coming out
Ball of
this year. Ball of ignorance.
It's like, yeah, that could be like a.
Can we get some album art for Ball of Ignorance, please? Coming out this summer. Kurt's new EP, Ball of Ignorance.
Shoot, I just highlighted some stuff I wanted to mention, but
It'll just be his face, like that's it. White background, no shading, just his face.
Just
right
Kurt's face.
on. You should be smiling.
Kurt is Ball of Ignorance.
Ball of ignorance. It's not exactly a vulgar display of power from Pantera, but I'll take it.
No. It is quite the opposite. Yeah, well, except for the Ball of Ignorance part. That part needs to stay.
ball.
We need to promote Kurt's new EP. Thank you for tuning in to Diagnonsense. I'm Isaac Smolden, and as always, I'm sitting across from Kurt Hodak,
The
who's
one,
eating
the only.
Yeah, the one, the only. You are just scarfing down some chocolate today,
Yeah.
per usual. Also per usual.
Yeah.
And not per usual, we not only have a guest, but we have woman guest. That is,
Wow.
there's only been like one other woman guest over the last. This is episode 40, by the way.
No, we had Rebecca.
We did have Rebecca. That is right, because that was the last time that we got called out for not having
Yep,
enough women
yep,
guests.
yep.
Right.
So we're
injecting some more feminine energy into
no,
Diagnonsense.
yeah.
So
Good
that we
for
can
you
combat that
guys.
ball of ignorance.
So we can
right?
combat the Warhammer 40K talk.
Yeah, we went way far to
We
the
did.
off the beaten path
We did.
with Ian for Christmas. So now we're reining
back
ourselves.
in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're reining ourselves back in with Lynda, who has been on Redemption a lot and has been on the My House podcast, but has not been on Diagnonsense. The premise that I pitched to Lynda was healthy relationships, but manly.
yeah.
Lynda asked for an outline, but Diagnonsense is like the anti-outline of shows. We've just got too much chaos energy swirling
Too much
around.
chaotic energy, yeah.
So I am open to discussing whether that episode thesis of healthy relationships, but manly, is even something that we should be striving for, or if healthy relationships are just universal. There's a lot of different pathways that we could take. I think rather than introducing Lynda, because there are other episodes that talk about Lynda's whole background on redemption, and there's the Triple W episodes on redemption that you can listen to if you want to hear more about Lynda. I guess I want to start with Lynda. You are a mother of 3 boys.
I am. It was a wonderful job. It still is. You know what? They're
Speaking
not
of
boys.
chaos energy, a lot of that takes a lot of strength, a lot of fortitude, being the only double X chromosome walking around the house.
True.
But when I started talking to you about this idea of let's talk about healthy relationships on Diagnonsense and get maybe a different perspective and come at it from a different angle, you told me that you were blessed to have 4 great examples of positive males in healthy relationships and healthy marriages with your late husband and all 3 of your sons.
Yeah.
And I think that actually makes you the perfect person to talk about men in relationships, especially men in female relationships in romantic settings, because it is a subject that I think we talk a lot about, but we talk a lot about it in women's empowerment podcasts and
Indirectly.
and I don't think that maybe as men, I know for me, for a lot of my friends, this is not a conversation that we would normally have. but I want to have that conversation. So,
That's awesome.
Lynda, maybe I want to start with your background and your marriage, watching your sons date and then marry their wives and now have children of their own. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, my sons were 14, 16, and 18 when my husband died. And so here they are just entering into noticing girls and dating girls, and they had a lot of questions, and their dad was gone by then. But Jerry and I had a pretty phenomenal marriage that was just really based on love and respect. Just simply love and respect. And within love and respect comes a lot of choices on how to respond and how to love. We really need to know how I feel loved and how my boyfriend or my spouse needs to be loved, because it's usually a two-way street. We're just so different. You know, you were raised with different rule books, you know, so what you were raised with, Isaac, and what your wife was raised with are two different things, and you come together and you go, well, this is right because this is the way that I always did it. No, I'm right. This is the way that I was raised. And I watched my boys when they got married, you know, shuffle through that, having to find, well, do we want connection or do we want disconnection? So the number one choice you have to make in a relationship is, if I want to connect, then I have to really learn how to understand this person that I'm married to. I mean, I can be totally disconnected and be married. My boys, like I said, one married a Kiwi from New Zealand, so you're talking big differences.
A Kiwi.
A Kiwi.
Not the fruit.
A female Kiwi. They're called Kiwis down there.
Yeah, I know.
And Nathan married, he fell in love at 4 years old, you know, with my husband, and her dad were best friends. And so we raised our kids together. So they had a better, you know, thing going for them in that they really understood, because they knew each other's families pretty well growing up together. My other son, my oldest son, and his wife met in college. So it's
three very different paths.
This is back when they had newspaper announcements of the engagements, and all of my kids, there was a headline, all of their pictures in the paper that said 3 sons, 3 states, 3 weddings. And they were all within 6 months of each other.
Oh,
They were all, thank goodness they were all boys, but, you know, we helped.
Yeah.
Of course.
So obviously communication, that is universal. That is something where we've talked a lot about it on like Triple W, how important communication is.
Yeah.
And I think maybe this is a generalization, obviously. It's certainly not true in my marriage, because I love to communicate too much in everything I do, I've been told. But I think maybe a lot of guys, and I don't know if this is your experience, Kurt, or if you can speak to this, but a lot of guys struggle with communication in a lot of different aspects of their relationship. Whether that's talking, you know, being able to talk through their feelings. That's maybe the most obvious one. But even just, you know, my wife and I dated long distance for 3 years, and communicating via text or phone call when you're not together, communicating at home when it comes to chores or when it comes to activities. I don't know if that comes so naturally to certainly a lot of my friends, the guys that I know. And maybe that is where there's this disconnect. I feel like the loudest voices that we're always hearing from the male point of view, it seems to be, is guys you need to be more masculine. You need to be the provider all the time. You need to be the hunter. You need to be the lion. lion mentality, right? And the loudest voices, I think, from the female perspective that I see are, why can't guys just be perfect? Why are there no good guys out there? Why are there no good guys out there, Lynda?
Where have all the cowboys gone?
Why? And I think that there is kernel of truth in both of those. And I think from the male perspective, it comes down to, I want to feel respected in this relationship, and I want to take care of my household. And that doesn't always mean I need to make more than my wife and be the breadwinner, or I need to, go out and I need to shoot this moose and butcher this moose and bring it back to feed my family. That can, maybe you're the emotional head or the spiritual head, or you are the breadwinner. I think somewhere in there is a different combination for everyone. But at the end of the day, I think it does boil down to that. I think that guys in relationships need to feel like they're contributing something to be happy. And I think for women, we've talked about this before, Lynda, it comes down to that. I want to feel loved in this relationship. That's the number one priority. And when that overgeneralization of where have all the good guys gone, it just stems from they been maybe unable to find someone that is addressing that need for, they've had a lot of imperfect relationships, because all of our relationships are imperfect.
They're perfectly imperfect.
And because, again, I think we've talked a lot about, from the female perspective, working with your partner, being selective, finding a partner that you can, being picky in relationships, right? We've talked a lot about that. For guys, how do we reconcile this need for respect in a relationship without, one, going too far and being controlling, because that's something that I think we do see a lot and leads to a lot of problems and hurts, but also being satisfied in a relationship as well. We have these sheets in front of us, and it says 21 tips for men, be more masculine in their relationship.
That's why when you said manly.
Can I go off on that for a minute?
Yeah,
Go
I would love you to go off on that.
There's a lot of things, because I don't think it's just I don't think it's just a problem that's like one dimensional. You know what I mean?
No,
I think this is what we're talking about is multi-layered. One of the first things I was thinking about was, relationships, I think, are getting more difficult in general. And that's, I feel like that's like terrifying, but it's the truth, right? Like, I don't know. I feel that way. I saw a thing recently that said like 60% of people in like these high-end colleges were lonely. And it's like, that's unprecedented for our in the terms of our generation, and like how things have rapidly changed. Mm-hmm. So like what a relationship looks like to me has evolved, because to me, there's a lot more of an introspective evolution, like psychologically, that has to happen for these parts to work together, because the world is more complex, I think, than like, I don't know. My parents always say it was simpler when they were growing up, People have to be open to a long-term or like be open to that level of intimacy to begin with. And I think that with all the technological advances, and I hear this on podcasts all the time, so I'll get off this horse in a second. I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but some of the challenge has been like birth control has changed how people, have relationships with each other. Now they have the choice whether or not, so it's not as risky now, to just have these casual relationships, I think. And
also social media and how we communicate and where we get our entertainment has maybe made us more isolated and less likely to reach out and connect.
Totally. Yeah. And somebody used this term recently, and I have to look more into it. I don't want to like misuse it, but this term I heard, environmental demasculinization. And I was like, that is an interesting term, because they were talking about something to do with like, so I saw that study on antidepressants in the water, right? And they were talking about that, and like how men's challenges with becoming more masculine is that we're facing an unprecedented amount of health issues, like here in the U.S. I'm practically on testosterone replacement therapy because of I believe it's because of the drugs I've been exposed to. So I think for a lot of men, like their health issues, if those aren't addressed, and those are complex issues, like, you're talking, okay, I need health insurance to go see a doctor. I have to be willing to get that. Like, that's a very intimate setting and vulnerable setting to begin with, so males are not good. We're not good about talking about our feelings all the time. Right. And so we're having to, address that. And it's like,
relationships, romantic relationships, interpersonal relationships, there's all these outside factors that are pushing people to engage in bad habits that are going to make them feel worse as men.
And that there's an existential dilemma because, if you have all your needs met, do you still, like, less people are having children? Do you still start a family? Like, do people feel like they need that? And so we get to this scary part, though, where you get older and suddenly you don't have a family and you don't have, for some people, there's like a moment where, they talk about integrity versus despair towards the end of life and some of the psychological theory. I forget which specific psychologist put that, Erik Erikson, I think. And so you get to this point
Great
where
name.
Yeah,
Erik Erikson.
Yeah, two first names, Ricky Bobby, two first names. You get to this point though, potentially where, we have these issues today, but it's also scary for people getting older as well. So it's very complex. But I'm just thinking from the male perspective here. I know there's, there's probably a lot of things though that can be optimized and changed. And where do we start?
Well, you know where we start.
Tell me, Lynda.
A choice.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if you want to start do you want to start talking about a marriage couple or just a couple who have decided to be together, dating?
All marriages start
Is that what
with
you're wanting
dating,
okay.
right? Well,
Okay.
Not all.
Okay.
Not all marriages.
So when you're interested in somebody,
yeah.
well, no, maybe this is not
Where are
already.
you going with this, Lynda?
But let's say the first thing
What
that
do you
you
find
usually
yourself
want to do is find out about that person.
Right.
Right. Usually something connects.
And when you get
go,
older and wiser, you want to find out more and more about that person before you.
Yeah,
move
if
forward, right?
if you choose to make a commitment, yeah. But when you're in the dating mode, you find yourself doing anything to make that person happy. You want to know them and they want to know you.
Yeah.
And God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should be doing
we should be
more
doing twice
listening.
as much listening. Is that what you're saying?
So that we can gather information.
Yeah.
And then the next thing that usually happens after is I'll just do anything for this person, and we'll just do all the fun things that you want to do, and we'll find all the fun things you want to do, and we're listening to each other and we're engaged. And then the time comes, where some disillusionment can come in because we go, well, I wish Kurt would do this. I wish Isaac would do this. If we stay together, I can fix him.
I can change him.
Or I can fix her, and surely once we're committed, and that's what happens a lot of times, then we're stuck with each other, quote unquote.
Right.
And so therefore, that's when we go into the mode of control.
Yeah.
And we can't control anybody. On a good day, we can barely control ourselves.
Yes. Well, and you're the one who introduced me to Melody Beattie's work in Codependent No More. And that was a profound read for me, by the way.
And that's big one for relationships, period, isn't it, Kurt?
Yeah, it is. It is huge. And I still, especially when I was in psych drug withdrawal, her book that's where you have the daily affirmations.
365
that carried
days.
Me through a lot
It's called
of
letting go.
Bad days. Yeah, I think it's the language of letting go or something like that. Yeah.
And so much of the time we want to blame. It was interesting listening to you talk about all the factors that we deal with.
Yeah.
We all have stuff outside of just a relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a noisy world. And so therefore, if I'm intentional in a relationship, and there's a word, intentional, I can only take care of myself. I need to let you be you and I need to allow you to give information about you to me, and vice versa.
Yeah.
But we're so busy telling you what you should do and what you should do to change and what you need to fix and what you should. And so therefore we need to back up and say, tell me about you. Tell me.
Yeah.
That's back to the I messages that says, hey, when this happened, I felt, and this is, and what I need is.
I think there's a statement in there that answers my earlier question, is the most toxic generalization of guys this want from gals in a relationship. You just talked about how when you can't change someone, or when you are expecting someone to change to make your perfect partner, there's this problem of control, right?
Exactly.
You become overly controlling. That is the totem when it comes to, I think, males in relationships. Is the ultimate evil, is this over controlling, because that spawns into domestic violence and toxic relationships and trauma
and nagging. That's what all of our fights start with. All of our disagreements start with is, I want to change you.
When it comes to the thing that I hoisted up as the totem for females is the, why is there not the perfect guy out there? Why can't I just find the guy that treats me right?
Why isn't there a perfect girl out there?
Right. And maybe there's not the perfect guy out there because we all have our flaws.
Of course.
And if you continue to look for the person that's going to perfectly, fit the mold, you are never going to be satisfied with your partner.
Well, you're all coming to a relationship, from the time you're little, is what am I going to want in a girlfriend? What do I like what do I want to know about a person of the opposite sex? What do I need? What's my priorities? I wanted a guy who had a great sense of humor, who wanted family, had a job, could provide, was stable. Very basic things for me, but some of them were, I wanted a knight in shining armor. I wanted a tall, dark, and handsome guy. But, my husband wasn't. But his humor and his personality and his caring and his listening, and I struck gold. But the thing was, the communication thing was so strong of listening to each other and staying connected on every day, what do you need? What threw you off? What went well? So that I'm staying connected. And the minute that I break that connection, it can come with, I don't want to talk about it. Connection broken. There's the times where you can go, let me think about it. Let me ponder that, and then let's get back and talk about it until we can resolve. But I have to tell you about myself. I don't need to tell you how to run your life, but we need to work together to know what's going to work for each of us. There's the passive communication that says, you matter and I don't. It's kind of codependent, isn't it? You matter and I don't. Mm-hmm. There's the aggressive communication that's, I matter and you don't. And then there's the passive aggressive one that says, you matter. No, not really.
Dang.
So you want the assertive communication that says, you matter and so do I. You've got to have that common ground that we're out for a win-win. We're not, I don't want, it shouldn't be a you win and I lose, or I win and you lose. No, we're working on a win-win, and it takes a lot of effort. You can't run away from it. If you want disconnection, you can have that too. Right. But good luck with your relationship.
Well, and one of the the dichotomies this brings into my mind is for young people now, one of the challenges is how much introspective development do I do in setting boundaries and wisdom before I get into lots, right? Yeah. And before I get into the marriage too, because a marriage is always a risk, right? Because you have two imperfect people. And so there's always this.
We're running
there's always
around all
this-
over the place.
this balance between this makes me think, like, for young people, what is the good balance between the part where you're developing yourself and you're getting wisdom and introspection, but the part where you also get that in a different way from being committed to somebody and in a long-term relationship, because you can always chase that ideal. Jung talked about this with the anima and animus, I think is how it's pronounced, where we have a idealized version of our partner in our head. And so that's a symbolic archetype, actually. And so it's really interesting, because it's like all the temptation there is today. You could sit back and develop yourself indefinitely and never commit to, but I feel like there's a lost growth.
Definitely.
And right. And
Yep.
so it's hard for young people, I feel like, because we have more options than ever to fill that space, even if they're short-term, temptations that are in the moment. It's satiating, even if something as small as, like, I want to scroll through my Facebook instead of
Responding to this
engaging,
text.
engaging with somebody. We've lost a symbiotic layer of our sort of tribal arrangement with each other, I think, in the new with all the new technology and all the things. And that piece is inherent to us. I don't think that's a piece that we can just substitute out for a Facebook feed, right? Because when you get 50 or 60 and you don't have a family and you're scrolling through Facebook, that's not. I don't think a lot of people are happy when they get to that point, right?
Well, yeah, that's a whole nother subject.
And no
Talk
judgment,
about
no judgment if they
social
are.
media.
No judgment if they
No.
are, but the majority of people, we haven't lived like that as a species.
Well, it's any distractions,
Right.
though, Kurt. I mean, you
Yeah.
can, to any generation, and there's always been distractions.
That's fair. Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you. We have more now, probably.
They're
heightened.
shinier.
They're much more shiny. But again, we have a choice of whether we're going to be powerful in a relationship
Yeah.
and be responsible for ourselves.
It's hard to remember how much authority we give away daily.
Oh, we
to
give our
these things.
power away, so much.
Yeah. It's hard to
And we have a choice whether we can be powerful or powerless.
And sometimes, what I found too is that I forget that relationship unless I just completely, like, do yoga or something where I have to, like, let stuff go.
Wow.
You have to establish the fact that, first of all, you're giving that away, but you don't know that you have it.
Isn't that something?
I want to hammer this point right here, because this, I think, is the crux of masculinity in a relationship, right?
That's right.
How do you be more masculine in a relationship? What I think some people will tell you is eat raw meat and demand to be respected and be the head of the, take that power. Take that power for yourself. It's okay to want to be more masculine in your relationship. It's okay to want to be a man. You can have that quote unquote lion mentality. You have to change the definition or what pop culture or the general public consider the traits of masculinity. I mean, when you think of masculinity, Kurt, I mean, you're thinking like, this is Sparta, tall, dark, and handsome, respected, powerful, rules with an iron fist, doesn't let anyone tell him what to do. But that is giving away your power, because you are losing respect. You are
for yourself.
You're losing respect for yourself. You're losing the respect of those around you by trying to force everyone around you, and most importantly, your partner, to respect you. True respect and true power has to come from you behaving in an honorable way that makes others want to respect you and want to trust your decisions.
It's a wheel. There's a book called Love and Respect. I can't remember the author, but it's a great marriage book. And it talks about women want to be loved Men want to be respected. It's both it's both love. The basic need we all have every human has is to be loved, to be seen, to belong. And so men receive that more in being respected and being honored, and women receive more of the love and the nurturing and all of that. But it all comes down to two, we want safety. And so much, I think what has happened with men sometimes, it seems like in, domestic violence situations, it's usually the men, that are the instigators. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know statistics on that, but it seems that
I think more often than not.
Well,
and so much of it comes, you guys, it's from the enemy of love, which is fear. Because all of the stuff that boils up within us, that's been brewing in the iceberg underneath the water of anger, is, are all those fear. Now my brain is, there's just a whole iceberg full of those feelings that we've never let our spouse know, I'm dealing with this, And when this happens, I feel angry. What I need is a date with you,
Right.
or
Well,
I need time by myself.
And the right person will honor and respect that. That's the kicker, right?
That's the secret to relationship, though.
Yeah.
Is listening and respecting, trying to figure out how can we make it work?
Yeah.
What works for you? What works for me? That doesn't work. How about if we try this? It's like putting a puzzle together. It's problem solving, and it takes a lot of time sometimes. But we're so afraid if I'm vulnerable with you, I'm going to get my heart tromped on. And guys are the same way. Guys have that part in them where they don't want their heart tromped on either. And so they usually have it, and it depends, again, how you're raised. Somebody's aggressive, someone's passive, and so you're dealing with a lot of emotions. Nothing can be solved until you're willing to say, be vulnerable and listen and not say, you shouldn't feel that way. You've got to validate each other's feelings.
Did we just solve all the world's problems?
I think what
in
the
one
world needs
conversation?
now is love, sweet love. We've lost, in all of what we're talking about, we've lost honor, we've lost respect. They don't know when we've done empowerment things and talk about different virtues and values, they just kind of look like, here's a list of healthy relationships and unhealthy relationships, and you go from one side to the other, and they just kind of look at you like, what does that look like? What does honor look like? What do these values look like? I don't even get that.
Yeah,
So-
because there's a temptation. There is a temptation to be like, this is the precedent.
I need to know myself.
Yeah.
I think you said that in the course of this.
Know thyself. Yeah.
It comes back to, I've got to know what I want so that I can let my partner know so that we can, because otherwise I'm just flying off the handle.
What is the AA thing? It's like, be true to thine own self.
To thine own self be true, yeah.
Yeah. Man, can I even, when I'm trying to have this relationship and like, that poke a holes in your confidence, those kind of social
Definitely.
narratives.
Giving away your power.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, really though, those social narratives can kind of invade and
But you can tell those social narratives that you're not gonna entertain them.
You can, because this isn't the first time science has been wrong.
That's right.
So you got to think like that.
It's
though.
just
You
just an idea.
Because I think
not a truth.
part of tragically we have given away some of our power. If you think about masculinity for, I think, a lot of young people, it's hard not to give your power away to, if you have a traumatic relationship and something like that happens to you where somebody leaves on bad terms, you feel like it was no fault of your own. It's hard for those narratives not to creep in and kind of dominate, like, well, if I do this, this is what's going to happen.
if that's what that person needs.
But
So,
I-
Right.
so often we'll say, oh, well, I'll decide what I'm going to do. I'm going to take flowers, I'm going to take candy, and that's not her love language.
Yeah.
She needs quality
the love
time.
language conversation is
We've
a
got-
whole different episode.
And that love language, though, is so basic to what I'm saying here is I've got to tell you, I've got to take responsibility. If I want you to love me, I need to let you know what I need. And you need, then the choice is yours, and vice versa.
And I think, Kurt, a lot of this screaming on the internet about,
Ugh.
especially as guys, as stilted guys, comes from I have exited a bad relationship. I have a traumatic experience.
Yep.
And both things can be true. You can have, someone hurt you in ways that were not right or just, and you can still have things to work on in that. Just because I was thinking about this when you were talking about it's scary to enter a relationship, because what if the idealized version, the shrine, the idol of my partner that I've built in my mind,
The anima.
well,
yeah.
the real person didn't live up to my perfect version of them in my head. Why didn't they do that? That's not how they're supposed to act. And now because none of us have it all figured out, turns out.
Right.
That's living on assumption, though. That's
Right.
just assuming that they were perfect.
And,
But
and
funny thing, we're human beings.
this, you're giving your power away. You get hurt in a relationship, and now rather than, take responsibility where you can and let everything else go, you're hyper fixating on, and you're making generalizations about an entire gender of people.
Yeah.
And this,
Easy to do. Collective
But it's
identity
so
is
wrong.
so easy to do. But it's the same thing with like race or
so-
religion, right?
Exactly.
How do you judge an entire group of people off of one person?
right.
It's this.
Can you even judge an
You-
entire group
Right.
of people? Is that
Well-
even possible?
Well, we shouldn't be judging
I like where Lynda went
and
with that.
assuming, that
Yeah,
we're
right.
all, that every human being, we're all perfectly imperfect. And
Yeah.
when we start, if we have a horrible breakup and I just decide to continue to trash you, yes, I'm giving my power away, but I'm also exposing myself to the rest of the world of my character.
Right.
That's the way that wars start. We just
Right.
decide that person is bad, and we're led by fear instead of love, because I've got to defend myself.
Yeah, by not having those boundaries, it makes it easier, right? 'Cause
Boundaries and communication.
right.
And it's the drama triangle that you can get in, where you're the victim mentality, and there's a bad guy,
Yeah.
and there's a rescuer, and we all play different parts in that. But it's a
But that's
drama
a powerful triangle.
It's a
because,
drama triangle. Being aware of this stuff, that you want to guard yourself from that. We see it a lot here
Yeah.
in my house, that the kids are comfortable because they've grown up in drama, and that's been their guide.
Well, I've experienced. I think everybody has experienced that to some level
Oh,
within
yeah.
their family. Most people,
Yes,
have experienced
yeah.
that within their family.
It's being aware of
when
it.
you're working with somebody who's been traumatized by that dynamic, that might be all that they know within the family dynamic, and that's where
Exactly.
like Melody B talks about, like she talks about codependency and what is the dynamic that she has the codependency, and then it's like
Interdependency.
there's a
Intra.
few different great ones, but I'd have to read up on it again. It's been a minute. Somebody as a codependent will hold on to all of their what they've perceived from a relationship and have
Well, and decide that all men, we can come back to that
Yeah.
all men are bad because I've had a bad relationship.
right.
It's we dehumanize each other, and we don't give grace for, so many aspects to our being. We don't know what's gone on in another person's life, and so we don't have grace, or we don't take the time to ask questions and find out, and what can I do to help?
And
Instead
that's
of
full
just-
circle. right?
Always.
Is back to asking questions and communication. So thesis is how do we have a healthy relationship? But I don't want it to be all that lovey-feely relationship crap. I want it to be my manly healthy relationship.
This is
Maybe-
tough stuff. This is hard.
So maybe the rather than all this outward stuff, or rather than demanding respect, how can you work on yourself and work on your interactions with your spouse or partner or coworkers or people in general to be someone that is worthy of respect? And if you focus on that and focus on communication with your partner, I think more often than not, you will find that the validation and the feelings of having power in your relationship and having power in your self-worth comes as a result of that, instead of that. That's the
You
symptom.
have to have the foundation set first.
Right.
Well, and it's the
effect, not the cause.
It's that love that can chase away fear. If I'm feeling loved by you, if I'm feeling accepted and appreciated by you, I can open up, I can communicate, I can be more and more vulnerable. But the minute that I am in fear mode, it chases away the love. We run and we fight. That's when we hit survival mode. It's a two-way street. It's not, and that's powerful stuff for a guy and a gal.
Yeah.
You know, the gender is, you have to be a powerful woman and you have to be a powerful man to say, I don't understand. Help me understand. I'm listening to understand, to know you, not to say, not so that I can be right. I want this to win-win. Because if you win, I win too. We want that.
Right.
And that's a powerful relationship, two powerful people.
Very
Powerful.
attractive.
If you have a powerful and a powerless person, it's still drama triangle, but it's extreme codependence because you're letting somebody else control you or you're controlling them.
Yeah.
If you have two powerful people that are working for win-win, you're working on being led by love, and you do not want to make that other person afraid of you or mad at you or shaming each other.
Take it from someone else. Take it back
From
yourself. You gotta grab yourself and take the power back that you kept giving it away. Tell yourself, stop that. Stop giving my power away,
I feel
me.
like we're in a 90s comedy where there's some hippie and the protagonist goes up to him and he's like, you got to take your power back, man.
I think it's a good
From
song.
yourself.
It sounds like a good
It does
song.
sound like
Sounds like a song that could be debuting on Kurt's album,
Okay,
Ball of
Kurt.
Ignorance. Now we really are full circle.